All right. Okay, so first of all, Betsy, thank you for taking the time and
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Where's the coffee, Bob?
I know. Where's the car? I know. I got here at 8:20. Class was supposed to start at 8:30. The entire building, there are no lights on. This is like it's just that time of the term when everybody, including myself, is basically just getting here in the nick of time.
Good,
If
good.
that. So anyway, everybody, this is Betsy Renfrew, sort of the other person that we are working with. She's functioning just as Andrew Young is, as a kind of teacher, co-teacher in this class, and also as a liaison between us and the Montagnards. So what we have is an opportunity to find out today, since we are in that period where we're just now shifting our focus to where we're going to go out and do documentary work with the Montagnards. I thought it would be really helpful for us to actually talk about what that involves, the kind of tips and tricks, things we should avoid, things we should try to do, things we can accomplish, things that might be difficult to accomplish. So if you have any questions about, like, how would you approach an interview, how would you approach sort of going to an event and doing documentary work, Betsy, I think, would be our go-to person on this thing. So Betsy, let me ask you just to introduce yourself just a little bit, because you have a great background, and then maybe say a few things about those aspects about documentary in the Montagnard community context.
Okay. My training is as a painter and a drawer. So I have a fine arts background with a Master of Fine Arts. And I've taught art history for a number of years, graded many papers too. And wanted to take a break from that and try some other creative venues. And so documentation is a little new for me. But one of the great loves I have are people of other cultures. And so there's a little bit of an anthropological basis to this, but I also have a very organic approach, which I think ties into my love of painting and drawing, mostly things from nature, but I've moved into the realm of people. So this is what I really like to do, is interact with people, but I'm especially interested in what people do with their hands. And that's why I find it a lot easier to focus on what people are doing instead of the talking heads. So that's something, a little bit more about my background. I'm right now teaching ESOL, so I have a really good understanding of the culture and their difficulties with mastering the language. Anything more?
No, that sounds good.
Okay. Well, everyone's waking up. I don't want to give you too much.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, so what we're going to be doing, and Andrew and I have talked about this a little bit. When we're trying to structure the events that we're going to be working as Betsy mentioned, kind of as doing events, as interactive events. For example, we're going to have a person come and talk about how to make things. You know, the sort of engineering and craft nature of some of the stuff that goes on in that community. And instead of just having this person come and talking, we're going to actually have him show us. Okay, so the guy's name's Tomas. Okay, Tomas, show us how do you strip bamboo to make useful stuff out of it. You know, so it'll be like interactive. Same thing with the music. When we have the music event here, it will be interactive. So if you want to go on stage and play, you know, that will be an option, that kind of thing. So that's kind of where we're headed. I really like that focus, especially this sort of. You know, I've noticed that in your documentaries that you've done too. So a question that I want to start with too is what would you point us to as examples that you think we could realistically do in the next, say, 3 weeks?
One of the approaches that I think works really well for me, especially when you're working with something like this. This is actually one of the easiest, most accessible tools. Most people do not find this intimidating. But one of the approaches that I take are taking lots of clips. We have the sort of A-roll and the B-roll. A-roll is when you're asking people and you're interacting with them. B-roll is when you're taking an image, when you're taking shots of the scene or the food or things without the people in them, and have enough of these clips so that you can piece them together later. And I don't really too much follow a storyline. I'm more interested in process, and I let the content tell the story. And I think that's probably the easiest approach. If you have a script, and I don't know if you're having people work with scripts or not, but you're going to find that the script is just going to kind of get tossed very early because of different ideas that crop up while you're making this, or this isn't going to work. So I take that very organic approach where I have lots of clips and I can flip them around. And that's the creative process as well, is piecing all these clips together.
Okay, so on the nuts and bolts level, right? We're using pretty rudimentary camera equipment. The one you held up was a flip cam. We have some of those.
Camera, yeah.
We have some of those available. Looks like the same vintage model that I have, or pretty close.
Mine is second generation. I understand it takes a fairly good photo, or fairly good imagery. Yeah, it's actually quite, it's not HD. That's the next step up.
Right.
But it's a really good introductory tool. And one of the other little technical things that I'd like to say about this is that you don't get a lot of shake. And I hold this with one hand sometimes and hold my hand on a wall sometimes to get really close in. And I don't really, okay, there's a little bit of shake in my videos, but it doesn't seem to really alter it. It's not like I'm taking a photo of you folks right there and the shake is not going to work because you're still. The other nice thing about this is that I just walk in to get close and back off. I don't use any of the little gizmos of zooming in and zooming out. It's not that great on this camera. But just walking in, and again, these are very unintimidating to most people. Most people will laugh at it and say, what is this? This is really kind of funny. So I find them very, very accessible tools to use. And also, I can't point to my computer because it's right in front of me, but this is another really good tool to use as well. Having this for archiving purposes and so forth.
Okay, and then staying on the nuts and bolts level, what do you use? Are you using iMovie to assemble the?
Yes, iMovie, and I must fully disclose that Andrew does do a good bit of the technical gizzardry on the iMovie. I basically create, I do the shooting, I do the, now let's put it over here, I do a little bit of the cutting, but Andrew does most of he knows all the little bells and whistles that go on with the iMovie. But yes, iMovie. It has its limitations, but it's a heck of a lot cheaper than. Are you using iMovie, Bob?
Well, we have it available. Folks are going to use pretty much whatever they have. It's going to be.
Good.
We're going to try to stay because we've got quite a wide array. We've got film students that would use Final Cut Pro, for example.
Oh yeah, nice,
so
nice.
Got some.
Okay. I have used that with lots of help, but that's actually a very sophisticated tool to use. Yeah.
That's a really one. Yeah, that's a big one. So we're probably going to stay low to the ground with iMovie. Folks using Windows, we use Windows Movie Maker, and we're also you can do quite a bit with this tool Camtasia, which we're using to do some video remix stuff right now.
Okay.
We'll continue because it's got a pretty versatile little editor, so we might try that too. But so the last nuts and bolts question is: are you using any external? Are you finding that you have to use an external mic or anything like that?
Well, because a lot of my work does not involve a straight interview. I don't do that because the Montagnards, at least the women, are a little bit shy, and they're much better to capture with incidental conversation. But what I'm finding is that the mic on this is limited. And sometimes I strip the sound off, and I will bring in a digital, it's a Marantz, I forget if it's a 680 or 600, it's it's about $700, and I'm borrowing it from the Folklife Institute, but it's about this big, and it has internal mics, and it also has external mics. It's very portable, it's battery operated, and that's the secondary mic that I use.
Okay, so it's actually a recorder, so you can record.
Yeah, it's a digital recorder.
Okay, because
the sound on this is limited if you get a lot of echo and so forth, but it's not too bad.
Okay, so we have access to some of those too, you guys. We have more portable audio recorders, so we could take camera and an audio recorder into like an event and do both. And
if you wanted to do some voiceover, that's primarily how I use it, is for voiceover. So I'll record my voice and then attach it to the video.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's what we'll be doing too, you guys. We'll be doing some voiceover stuff. So just to reiterate then, we're going through a process where we're going out and we're kind of doing the hunt and gather thing, right? we're gathering clips, gathering still photos, gathering sound clips, sort of ambient or focus, and then we're coming back into the studio and assembling those. So not totally different from what you guys are doing right now with your remix projects, except instead of all the samples coming off your screen, right, we're going to be getting samples from out in the world, but bringing those back and sort of cobbling them together. That sounds like a pretty fair representation.
Oh yeah, no, that sounds great. Yeah.
Cobbling, I guess, is what the way I'm seeing it. So, do you guys have any questions or any thoughts that you have regarding problems or whatnot you might run into, or situations with regard to the Montagnards that you know, interacting with the people aspect that you'd want to ask Betsy? Put you all on the spot here. Let me pan Betsy. Let's see everybody. So far, no one is. Everyone's still got their head up. We're all doing all right.
Yeah, that's good.
One of the things that's going running in.
Coffee yet? Maybe you're not allowed to have coffee in the computer room, but
you can. One of the things that's going on. One of the things that's going on here is there's an all-school musical, Oklahoma, being produced, and so if you see anyone that has a particularly blank look on their face, that means they're in Oklahoma.
yeah, I've been to art school. I know what it's like. The all-nighters.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No.
I'm actually doing my project on language and the difficulty for the Montagnard people to learn English. So, would you be a person I could go to talk about that? Or?
Absolutely. I've been teaching English for 2 years, and yes, everybody's scratching their head in the world of ESOL as to why it takes so long, as opposed to someone who is a native Spanish speaker. Yeah, absolutely.
Other projects. Think of what you're likely to be working on, guys, and then just sort of share that, and then maybe Betsy would have some ideas. Projects? You don't know what yours is doing. Western language. What else did you guys say in that when you decided to focus what you're going to be actually working on? The question you're going to be looking at. Yeah, Trav.
I'm doing my project on like the young people in the Montagnard community, and if I ever come up to like try to get some research, who would I be able to talk to see how their transition is when they come in? Like,
well, Andrew Young can give you contacts. He knows quite a number of the young folks. He knows a couple of guys that are in a band. The younger generation have very different challenges than the older generation has, so it would be an excellent group to work with. But Andrew Young does have some contacts, and he can set you up with some meeting times or some people. But there's a lot of young people that we can access.
Yeah, and that's the kind of things we'll be doing this week. Betsy, is we're kind of staging things this week, and then trying to set up actual appointment type stuff for next week and the 2 weeks after that. So
great.
I think we're okay. So another project. Throw something out there, guys. What do you? Someone else. What
Women in religion.
Okay. So we have several people that and we're not sure what kind of event this is, but we're wanting to get people talking about the role of religion. Two aspects: the sort of original, if you will, or religion that would have been with the Montagnards prior to Christianity, and then also this transition and persecution, so to speak, afterwards. So there's those two aspects.
Okay. That would be very interesting. Most of the Montagnards that have come here are Christian, but it's really exciting to talk to them about things that their grandfathers and grandmothers believed in. They're called animists, and those are things of worshiping the spirits in the sky, in the ground, in the earth, in the water, the thunderclouds, and so forth. So that would probably be something where you would go to the elders of the community. The young people probably won't know that. And then the interesting interfaces with Christianity. Christianity has been around in the Central Highlands for probably 50 to 100 years. It's not that new, but for some people, they still have some very vivid memories of life before Christianity.
And that's one where we may have trouble making that a how-to kind of thing. That may be more or less a talking head type of like interview event, or
Yeah, there are a couple of leaders. The man Tomas Iban actually has a wealth of information. The guy does know a lot about his culture. He's learned. He speaks French. He speaks English very well. He's the guy that knows how to work the bamboo with the knives and so forth. He makes baskets. So he's actually somebody that could talk a lot about the religion. He right now is a Catholic. So not all of the Montagnards are Catholic. Some are evangelical Protestant, which is another interesting spin there too.
So what I want to pull out of that for you guys is if there's possible that if we might have Tomas come here, for example, and do a make things with bamboo sort of thing, it might also be a chance for those of you interested in the religious stuff to actually get some samples from him on that too, and then that's back to the idea of gathering and then assembling. So we could gather multiple things from this one person. It sounds like.
Yeah.
So yeah, no.
So when I go to visit, will I be able to catch footage of the Montagnards speaking in their native language, or do they relatively speak more English now, or how would I go about getting footage of their native languages? Because I know there's many, but
Yeah, there are, and it really doesn't matter which one. But most of the adult population is not that fluent in English. So there's plenty of opportunities to hear them speaking in the native language. I think one of the approaches is to talk to people about what your project is first. Let people understand what you're trying to do, what your purposes are, how it will be used. And I think at that point, a lot of people would really love to help you with that. Some of the women tend to be a bit shy. And because they haven't been to school, for the most part, they're going to be a little bit timid about either being on camera or speaking into the microphone. It's a lot easier to get people to speak into a microphone if they have that kind of level of, oh, I'm very shy. But once you explain to them you really are interested in their language, they'll speak for you. Yeah, I don't think that's a problem.
Okay, so there's a tip in there that when we're entering these situations, we might want to sort of do a little bit of self-explanation.
Yeah.
Of sort of saying, here's what we're trying to do. Can you help us with this? Are there other things that classic sort of intercultural mistakes that we might want to avoid? Things like that.
Now this is a little, I know you folks are sort of on the hit and run as far as, you have a limited time scope, and I've been working with this for 2 years. So my approach is a lot slower, but I meet with people without I bring my cameras anyway, but I meet with them and don't pull the cameras out and just say, oh, it's nice to meet you. Maybe sometime I could come back and take some pictures of your weaving. I focus on not their faces, but the weaving, and I kind of work my way up. The other thing is that if you have really great equipment, which you probably will have access to, one of the things is you can say, hey, I can take some pictures for you. Would you like to send these back home to Vietnam? And they love that idea. That's a great idea. If you can get images that get printed out at one of the local photo services and give the photos to them, and they can send them back to their kids or something like that. Because a lot of the folks have kids in Vietnam and not here. So that's something that you can do. There's also the release form too, and I don't know how you all want to do that where you are, but a release form that lets the person that you're interviewing and interacting with understand that I would like to use your image, and can I use your name? And I can give you, Bob, I can send, I've got a non-digital version, but I can copy it and send it to you if you want just an example of how we do this at the CFDI. Community Folklife Documentation Institute, where it's ethically sound to let people know how you're going to use their image, how you're going to use that information. And you might want to also stress, we're not going to give out your name and telephone number and address on the internet. That's very comforting for people to learn, because a lot of families are still being persecuted in Vietnam, and they're a little, I don't know about my name being on there. So you have to figure out if you want to change names if people are really, really adamant, or you just let them know that this is how I'm going to use this image. It's for school projects, and we're not going to put your name or your address and telephone number on there.
Okay, so would they need to sign a form though? I'm assuming we'd do that if we have a staged event here. But I guess I'm wondering about things like, for example, this weekend I was sharing with these guys the opportunities to go to the Glenwood neighborhood.
Yeah.
Event,
Now, when you're out in the open and stuff like that, I think you're fine. Crowd scenes are considered to be acceptable, but when you go into someone's home or you go into a small space and you're focusing on maybe one or two people, it's just considered to be ethically sound to just let, it can be, and believe me, it can be very, very simple. But you're disclosing how you're going to use the image. And sometimes multi-narratives will say, oh, no, you don't have to do anything written, I trust you, because they're very trusting people. But you have to be honest about how you're going to use their image too.
Okay, all right. Thanks. Any other questions on those kind of matters, you guys? Did you feel like you're not sure about how to handle interactions or whatever? That's pretty clear? Okay. All right. Well, Betsy, I think we may be good to go.
Okay.
We may be anyway. So, thanks. I guess I should disclose to you, I'm recording this call.
Oh, sure.
So,
I figured you would be.
So we'll have that on, and I'll be able to put that in the class. And I guess I'll be seeing you then. We'll be connecting with you later today in the other section.
Okay. What time would that be?
Up to you. That class meets from 10 until 11:20.
Okay.
If you have another 10 minutes or so, I don't want to have you do the same exact. I'm just thinking if there are other questions that people might have, they might pull up some stuff that we haven't touched on.
Yeah. So I'll be close. There may be an instance where I've got to get up and make sure everything is going smoothly. I'm in the just outside the classroom right here, so
Okay.
make sure everybody's doing their thing.
Okay. If it doesn't work out, it's okay too, because I can share this recording with the other sections.
Okay.
So that could be fine as well. So we'll just see how your schedule goes. But
Okay.
I'll be hanging out in the classroom until 11:20.
11:20.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
All right. Yeah, we're done at 11.
Oh, that might be great then. Why don't we just see
If
if we
you
can
wanted to
check
call
in?
at 11, I'll pop in here.
Okay. All
Maybe
right.
I could drag one of my students in here too.
Okay, that's good. And I got one more question for you.
Sure.
You spent some time at Duke. What kind of thing was
Yeah, this is when I say CFDI, it's the Community Folklife Documentation Institute, and it was an actual course that I took. And the notebook's over there. But what it was, it's a consortium that was put together by the Folklife Institute and the Center for Documentary Studies. We got to use their equipment. Ooh, nice equipment, and we had some intensive courses on how to interview. We interviewed each other, how to use sound equipment, how to use still equipment, how to use video equipment, and then they let us out. And into the community we went to gather information about people's lives and to create products from them. So it's a great opportunity. It's also funded by the North Carolina Council for the Arts, or Arts Council, and I'm sure you know who they are, and that's something that comes out of funding from the state arts. But that was a fantastic program. I don't know if they're going to run it again next year because of the state budget, but it was an excellent program.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you. Unless there's other last questions. Okay. All right, thanks a bunch.
Okay, thank you.
With you. All right. Okay, guys. Back at it, right? Wherever you left off, we're going to pick up there. If you have any